I think we're good. Go YouTube. Go YouTube right now.
Okay, hold on.
Let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out how to do one quick thing, but we'll be to it right now.
Oh, we're live on YouTube.
We are? Everyone's seeing us do this dumb shit? Nice. Nice. I love being live. Okay. Cool. All right. Presented by Under Armour and new sponsor, Prize Picks. $100 match on your first deposit with the promo code LIGHTYEARS. And finally, for those of you watching, we are live on playback. Make sure to join us live on playback if you want to participate in the show. Welcome to Light Years, or maybe better yet, Blight Years. What the fuck was that last night?
Is that how we're going?
I'm just glad we didn't go live last night because you know what the reaction would have been in the immediate aftermath. I got to sleep it off, just think about my thoughts a little more, and maybe we'll come in a little more level-headed today, a little more big picture. Doesn't mean the loss didn't suck, though.
Yeah. Maybe the worst loss that we've seen across the last two seasons. We'll lump two seasons together because last season, this season, same season.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the worst one, probably the worst one to set the stage. Losing by double digits as a double-digit favorite against the worst team in the NBA. Not just the worst team in the NBA, Sam. The worst team in the NBA without their best two players. Their best player, the best prospect that we've seen since LeBron James, did not even play. Wembanyama did not even play. And
did not even travel. He's chilling in San Antonio waiting for the Warriors on Monday. I don't know if he's going to play, but better chance.
And they got absolutely waxed by some guy named Champagne, Zach Collins. I know Zach Collins. Some guy named Sohan, who's just not been good this season because they tried to make him point guard, but he owned the Warriors. Just an Malachi Branham, who just, I guess, is fine. It's fun. He can shoot a lot. What are we doing here? Kevon Barlow, old Niners running back, came back from wherever and just destroyed them. Embarrassing.
If you watch last night's game with no context on either of the teams, you'd think Jeremy Sohan was the best young player on the floor. Better than Kuminga, better than Pods, better than Moody, better than Trace. It's one game, but it kind of felt like the number one thing I found inexcusable about last night was the Spurs just played a lot harder than the Warriors. They certainly didn't have more talent than the Warriors, even without Steph Curry. They didn't have more talent. They just outworked the Warriors on every aspect of the game. And given where the Warriors are in the standings and how much you can't lose games in hand. They lost to the Bulls on Thursday, which they had no business losing. And then you lose to the Spurs without Wemby and Vassell. Like earlier this week, we're talking about them getting out of the play-in. I don't think they're getting out of the 10 seed at this rate.
Yeah, no, they're going to have to win 2 games. They're going to have to go back to your point about playing hard. It was pretty obvious about 5 minutes in. You look at the starting lineup, and then second, you look at the way that they play. It's pretty amazing that Joe Lacob's paying for this team when guys just seem like they don't care. It blows my mind. And this hasn't been the first time. It just blows my mind that the amount of money that they're putting in this team, and it's just they're just not ready to play basketball, or that they just don't want to play basketball, or that, Sam, they don't know how to play basketball with each other. And so that it's an unacceptable thing. The problem is we've said it's quote unquote unacceptable, but they've accepted it all season long. So I'm not really sure what it's unacceptable, but they don't seem to be able to change anything. It's the exact same stuff. Nothing we saw last night was a surprise outside of what was a surprise last night. I don't even know. We've seen it so many times. It's just, we're just annoyed, right? We're just angry. We're annoyed, but nobody's surprised.
The lineup, what was this? The 50th different lineup they used this season? I know it's not 50 guys, but it's certainly more than 12. I mean, it's the first time they played this lineup. First time Kuminga played at small forward for 3 quarters. I mean, you saw why he doesn't play small forward. He didn't get going until they put him at power forward, you know?
No shocker. Just no
shocker. Yeah, because they have no spacing. Yeah. I mean, the thing that my take watching this game was, are they as, like, if Steph missed the entire year, are we sure they'd have a better record than the Detroit Pistons or Washington Wizards?
Well, I mean, the Spurs have 14 wins. Would they have more than the Spurs, right? Yeah.
No, they have no spacing. They have no offensive skill. I know you were more harping on the defense when you were watching it and we were talking, but it's like the thing that jumps out to me is like, man, you watch the good teams in this league and they got so much firepower, and then they defend on top of it. But the starting point is like you watch OKC, they got 3 guys who can get 40 any given night. You watch the Nuggets, same thing. You watch the Clippers, same thing. I can keep going down the line. Though they just have players who can really score the ball. And then they defend on top of it. Because, like, obviously, if you don't defend, it doesn't matter. I'm looking at the Warriors, and I'm like, outside of Steph Curry and Clay having a random throwback game, is there anyone on this team, if the defense game plan for him, you feel comfortable could get 30?
Maybe Guy Santos. Maybe that's the guy. No, it just no, seriously. Yeah, no, absolutely not. The big thing too is to me is they're also not put in positions to succeed. You brought up, I'm gonna bring back up because I felt like we flew through that one. But Kuminga started next to Trace Jackson Davis and Draymond Green. Trace Jackson Davis and Draymond Green, who are awesome, cannot shoot the ball. And then you put Kuminga, who's the third guy, cannot shoot the ball. What do you expect is going to happen?
2024, here's what happens. Every defender plays 5 feet off of you, and you have 4 bodies in front of you to try to get to the rim. And Kuminga's not a shooter, so if he can't get to the rim, what are we doing? They moved his position, but it's like, yeah, to your point. But are you mad that Steve played that lineup? Like,
I don't know if I'm mad. It's more of a, hey man, it's 20 games left for the season. Steph is out. Can you just put a more urgent game plan together? You're fucking treating this like it's the preseason. It just try harder. Try harder goes for Kuminga in the first half, right? Because it seemed like he wasn't locked in. Now you could say that's coaching, but try harder also goes for Steve Kerr. It also goes for the entire coaching staff, where it's just, guys, man, why is Clay coming off the bench? You obviously need the spacing. We saw in the third quarter they look much better when he's playing. Why is Kuminga playing the 3 when he can't dribble? Why is Wiggins? And Wiggins didn't play well, but he's your best wing defender. Why is he coming up?
He?
He's by far their best wing defender, which maybe speaks more to their defensive game plan or their defensive IQ or whatever it is. But you're not guarding anybody going straight to the rim. I'm watching guys I've never heard of drive and kick, right? So can you just put a game plan together that's a little more urgent so you don't come out and go down and give up 32 points? To the Spurs?
I know Wiggins is the most talented defender on the team, but like outside of 10 games, has he played defense? That's the other part of it. The Wiggins thing was
Paul and Pods playing defense. Certainly not those 2 guys, though.
I mean, Pods has either hit the rookie wall or his knee's not right, but he looks atrocious. There's no way around that. Kuminga is not as polished a defender as Wiggins. Everyone knows that, but. And then the other part, like GP2, probably your other great one-on-one defender. Was this the 8th game he's missed randomly being sick, And they haven't been in a row. It's just like weird. Every week out with like a stomach flu or out.
Hangover can't be that bad, right? Like what is going on over there?
You think he's the one with the infant who's just constantly getting him sick? I don't know. But I don't know. We could keep going on this, but I kind of feel like let's just talk a little bigger picture. So I threw this on Twitter just to see where people's heads were at. It went kind of how I expected. What's the bigger issue for Golden State, coaching or the front office? To be clear, I think everyone has a hand in the Warriors' issues, including the players. So let's get that out there. Over the course of an hour, it's about a 60-40 split. Front office, more to blame than coaching staff. Where are you at with this? Because I'm not surprised 40% of Twitter blames Steve Kerr, but I kind of feel
You agree with the coaching staff part?
No.
You agree with the front office part. Sorry.
I mean, if it was me, I'd go 75-25, maybe 80-20 in favor of the front office being more to blame.
Wow.
That's kind of where I'm at because I'm looking at this and I'm just like, this is the most expensive roster in the NBA. Does it feel like the most talented roster to you?
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Are they getting their money's worth from guys? There's, like I said, when you're as mediocre as the Warriors are, and when you're as outright bad as they are without Steph Curry, it's never one thing. Like it's a bunch of things. But I can't help but look at all this and go like, man, Steph is one of, I don't know, the 8 or so guys who can credibly be the best player on a title team in the NBA, right? He's the only one of them who's not playing with another co-star who's remotely close to his prime.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I mean, we don't need to talk Denver, obviously, Murray and that roster is just stacked up and down, but like we can keep going through it. You know, like look at who's with Kawhi. LeBron has AD, the Celtics. Like you can keep going down it. And I'm just looking at this. I'm going like, yeah, maybe Chris Paul's the second best player on this team. And then I'm like, what am I saying out loud? You know, like these are kind of it just comes back to like the lack of urgency around this team that sometimes I feel like this whole thing is just an expensive, soft rebuild. You know, that's kind of what it feels like sometimes.
Let me tell you what's a soft rebuild. Soft rebuild is the other team playing in the very gorgeous ballpark. A couple blocks down from they are doing a soft rebuild, and that's a team that's actually
they don't got number 30.
Yeah, right.
Who's their number 30?
It's a good question. Okay, I disagree. I'm going with the coaching. I actually think it's probably more players. You mentioned it as kind of the third one. It's probably more players because I mean Clay and Draymond issues. We talked about it. Clay struggled. He's playing very well right now. Draymond been playing very well. Doesn't show up half the season. Andrew Wiggins, probably the worst one, probably the biggest culprit. Just missed a week and then just been terrible all season. That's $100 million. That is just bad, and there's nothing the front office or coaching staff. Well, maybe you could argue the coaching staff could do, but you could argue that the front office couldn't do anything with those guys. I actually think the front office drafted some good players. Maybe they could have made a couple trades here or there. Maybe they add Otto Porter Jr., but again, Otto Porter Jr. is not helping. Do they get Caruso? Does he help with last night? So to me, it's more coaching staff because you do have good players. You don't have great players, but then you also have been kind of this whole season, it feels like running an experiment on who to start, who to play, riding with guys too long. Now that you're going with the young guys aren't good enough. It's just a constant push and pull of pushing the wrong buttons. It always feels like they're pushing the wrong buttons. Last night, they try a new button with a new starting five. Put Chris Paul with Trace Jackson Davis, but then you also have no spacing. You also are running a defensive scheme that I don't think has worked in years because you can't stop dribble penetration, but when you can't stop dribble penetration, you're also over-helping, so you're leaving threes open. Sam, don't know what the front office can do, and if you're going to go all the way back and say, well, they drafted James Wiseman, and maybe they shouldn't have drafted Kuminga, maybe you should have traded that. Sure. I mean, yeah. I can't
That's kind of where I'm going with it. Sure. Last night's loss was not on the front office. That would be ridiculous. Like unless Kirk poisoned everyone's like pregame Gatorade, which I don't think was going on. I'm just talking about the malaise of them. Where is this going to go? Steph's going to come back. They're going to play better, but they're going to be in the play-in. Odds they get out of the play-in are minimal now. We thought they could get out of the play-in if they took care of business and got a couple wins you weren't expecting, you know. So it's like in our minds we're just like, well, they're gonna beat the Spurs, well, they're gonna beat the Bulls, and then maybe if they win a couple of those Dallas games, we're good, you know. Nowhere in that calculus was throwing away a game at home to the Spurs without Wemby or Devin Vassell. You know, they should beat the Spurs without Steph with Wemby and Devin Vassell.
Yeah, correct. Facts.
So,
big facts.
But when I look at this team, I just look at it from the context of they won a title 2 years ago. Steph's still playing at the same level he played at 2 years ago. He's going to end the season playing over 70 games. I know this is a hiccup. We didn't even talk about it, but they're reevaluating him after Monday's game. My gut says he's not going to play on Wednesday against Dallas as much as he wants to. I think they're just going to look in and be like, Lakers game, that's a full 9 to 10 days. It makes sense. We'll just throw one more away, you know? But I could be wrong on that. But the point is he's not going to miss significant time. It's going to be somewhere between 2 to 4 games, right? Yeah. And I don't know. You're getting that season from Steph. and he has nothing around him. And there was just no onus at the All-Star break to upgrade that. You're talking about $100 million of meh, you know? You're right. It was $100 million. They do have that. Why are you not using one of those players, adding picks, maybe throwing in one of your young guys to go get someone who can actually move the needle? Yeah. Why were you not making a move for Lauri Markkanen? Why? And, you know, you can tell me those things probably weren't as available as the leaks suggest. We all know that to a degree. It's like people leak stuff just to see what's out there. But how many years does Steph have to play like this? Like, it's one of those things where I'm just question. It's where I'm sitting here and I'm like, when I watch games like last night, I'm like, man, I know the run has been amazing, and all things do end. Like, Klay's not the same player he was, and that's just life. But Steph's not near his end, man. It's not even close when you watch him. He could still be the best player in a playoff series. He could still absolutely hang with anyone if you give him a roster that can hang with those teams.
Whoa.
And that's not what they have.
I think dude, let's run that question back. Mm-hmm. How long does Steph have to play like this? That's the one. Because you and I can sit here and freaking argue about which one has more blame. But you look at the guy and you're just sitting here, and I'm watching Anthony Davis and D'Angelo Russell take care of the Bucks at home without LeBron. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at, I mean, the Suns are struggling a little bit, but you're looking at them even with Bradley Beal, and Nurkic has been relatively healthy all season, and Book's out right now, but he's awesome. He might even be better than KD at this point. And they got enough juice. They got enough juice to win a round or two. And that's I think all you're asking for. His team right now, even when Steph comes back, like, yeah, they are a playing team. They might not actually get out of that 9-10. They might be one game and they're out, not one round. I think TK brought this up, friend of the show. They might not get a home playoff game. They might not get any game.
Yeah, they might have to go to LA, play the Lakers, and if they somehow win that game, then they're gonna have to go to like Dallas or Phoenix.
Good luck.
Come on, man. By the way, shout out the play-in. The play-in's going to get higher ratings in the playoffs if those four teams are in there, but that's a different discussion.
Adam Silver has made a lot of poor decisions, but the play-in is not one of them. I've loved the play-in. The play-in has literally kept the Warriors and the Lakers. They've kept Steph and LeBron in the NBA. Main
relevance?
Yeah, relevance. Yeah, has kept them relevant the last couple years, even though those guys haven't won anything. But really, truly. Great work by Adam, by our guy Adam. So hey, one final thing. I know we got to get to some reads here, but they've been waiting all season for the off season to make a big move. I'd imagine that's what they would tell you. I'd imagine the front office that would tell you, right? Whatever, whoever they get.
I mean, yeah, but then we're being honest with it. It's just kind of like this season, call it what it is. It's a development season. You have Steph Curry turning 36 this week. Don't forget that. It's this week. He will turn 36 years old. Ooh. Shout out Pi Day, March 14th. But, you wasted a season developing guys who you hope can help you next year when you make a big move. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. I would have liked to see more urgency. It's just disappointing to see this be how the tail end of who is clearly the greatest player in franchise history and clearly one of the 10, in my opinion, probably 5 greatest players in NBA history. I don't know, man. I know they're going to suck when he retires. I don't really care. I'll sign up for watching a rebuilding team because that's life, Maybe they could get the next Wembanyama when they suck, That type of thing, right? But let's go for it while number 30 is still number 30.
Yeah. And that's a perfect segue into the Light Years podcast being brought to you by Under Armour, being brought to you by the Curry brand. Steph Curry makes you believe you can do anything. And the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce grip stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up and showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock with your favorite player. Rep his shoes on and off the court. The Curry 11s are perfect for both the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet. Locked in no matter what you do on the court. So stopping your tracks with dual density UA flow, cushioning, and traction. An emergency brake you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspiration from the wonders of a positive and modernized future on and off the court. Take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. The Curry 11 Future Curry, available now at currybrand.com.
Ooh, give me one quick second, my man.
Okay.
Go for it.
And today and moving forward, we're happy announcement, surprise announcement by Sam at the top of the show. The Light Years podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. You can now sign up and win up to 100x your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. So whether it's tournament season, literally watching Caitlin Clark this morning go off in overtime, or the fight for the playoff home court, watching the Warriors struggle to get into the 8th seed, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your latest hoops knowledge into serious cash. So you can go ahead and pick more or less tonight on things like Anthony Edwards, 31 points. That's an easy more. You can go with Austin Reeves more or less on 14.5. That's an easy less, right? So those are certain numbers, things that I'm looking at. D'Angelo Russell, who just went off last game, he had like 45.
Quote of the season, by the way.
Unbelievable.
I was molded by humiliation. I love that one. I respect him for at least being like, yeah, everyone made fun of me and it made me be better.
Unbelievable. D'Angelo Russell, who is
D'Angelo Russell, a secret immigrant, you know? got immigrant parent who just up him all the time.
Secret contract year is what it is.
Yeah.
A secret contract year, more or less. His number is at 17.5. That feels like an easy more, especially on national TV on a Sunday night. So you can go and put all of that together and get winnings. And so listen, download the app today. Use code LIGHTYEARS for a first deposit match up to $100. Use code LIGHTYEARS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Yeah, it really is. Honestly, just also Prize Picks by far the best DFS app. So easy to just play, make plays, make the games a little more fun. Yeah, that Laker Wolves game is going to be a fun one to watch tonight. I do like D'Lo on the over there, just getting off against his old team a little bit. But anyway.
Prize Picks. Promo code LIGHT.
Right. You know, taking it back to the front office conversation a little bit, it's like I can't really, in my opinion, in what happened was in 2022, they win the title and they extend Poole, Wiggins, and Looney, who are the 3 guys in their 20s who are helping the core guys pretty substantially. In Wiggins' case, you could say he was probably the second best player throughout the playoffs. Looney and Poole were super consistent in their roles too, though. And those guys falling off is why they look gold to me. You know, like Poole's gone. We know what happened there. Looney, the 84 hip surgeries caught up to him finally. He looks just he looks like the oldest 28-year-old on earth. I'll put it that way. And then Andrew Wiggins, who they bet on being that support guy for Steph, has reverted back to Minnesota Wiggins. I know he's dealing with some stuff, but even when he's been in lineup, he hasn't been anywhere close to the 2022 player. And there's just such a big gap between what he was able to do for that team that won over 50 games and ran through the playoffs and the player we see now, which is like some nights fine, some nights a no-show. And I think everyone would kind of call him kind of an enigma, you know, like you don't know what you're getting. It's not like he hasn't had good games, but you don't have any form of consistency. And for your star player who's in their late 20s, you're kind of expecting him to be the consistent one. You know, I know Clay's not going to be consistent because of the age and injuries. And I know Kuminga's not going to be consistent because of his age. I am kind of counting on the guy who's 28, 29 years old to be the most consistent, you know, give you that 18 points, 8 rebounds, and two-way play on a consistent night. And, you know, doesn't shoot the ball. His offense looks Minnesota-ish most nights. Doesn't defend hard most nights. Some nights he will, some nights he doesn't. And then the rebounding waxes and wanes. And it's just the effort level waxes and wanes. And so it's kind of like, you know, and then that's where I go back to like, well, can I really blame the front office? What were they going to do? Like not pay him after he won the title, you know, like, but I'm just sitting here going like, man, it's time to move on. It's just time to move on. And that's just one of many examples, but that's me countering my like front office points.
Well, I think the Wiggins one is, it doesn't all come down to Wiggins, but he's probably the largest example of nobody could have done anything. I don't think they could have changed anything because he played so well for that championship, and he's just so bad right now. There's just nothing you can do. What's Steve Kerr gonna do? He can't change that. What's Joe Lacob gonna do? Can't change that. There's really nothing that anybody could have done outside of, hey, Wiggins, maybe just not suck. Like that's I don't know.
And even when he plays well, it's more like he plays like a good starter. It's not like, actually, I'm going to take over the game like I did in the playoffs a few times, you know? Like, that's the other thing. Like, his good isn't as good as his 2022 good was.
I mean, it was his only game comparable to 2022 was him getting off on OKC, right? And the Warriors lost that game. Also, that game was like 45, 50 games ago.
That was 10. This is the worst loss of the season games ago.
Right. I remember exactly that game. And so that was one game, right? You're right. That was one game of him being amazing. So yeah, it might just come down to that, man. Last year it came down to just Jordan Poole, right? And this year it just comes down to Wiggins, where guys, I don't know what you're supposed to do when players just fall off the map like that. They go from being above average playoff players, which is very hard in the NBA, very hard. I don't think many teams have.
Being a standout in a conference final or a finals game is like the highest tier of basketball one can play.
It really is. And both guys just completely, I would say Jordan Poole maybe even like struggled. Like they had to like play him in select minutes throughout the longer they got. But Wiggins was playing heavy minutes throughout, guarding Luka Doncic and then Tatum. Like, what, we know all the story. And then now it's man, like he can't even stay in front of Trey Jones. What are you supposed to do? Steve, what is Steve supposed to do? What is Joe supposed to do? What's Bob supposed to do?
And this is where my frustration with the front office came. I'm ready for them to shake this up so much. You know what I mean? Like I've seen, and for them not to do it at the trade deadline, I get it. The team was playing well, but the other part of me is like, man, I just don't believe that they're going to be able to fully figure it out in a way that you think they will. I'm ready for a new iteration around Steph is really what I'm coming down to. And for them to just like, cause it's been 2 years of 500 basketball. That's what it is. They won 44 games last year. If I had to guess, they're probably gonna win 44 games again this year, right? Like just, we've given it enough runway. It's time to make a bold move. I'm a little, you know, losses like last night are just like, did we need to see that to know that this is the team they are? And it is what it is. Yeah. Like you said, maybe they'll do something in the offseason. That's what they're signaling, but we got to get there.
Yeah.
I do want to talk a little about the young guys. You know, we might as well take a little joy in watching development, right? That's kind of how I'm trying to enjoy this season right now, where it's like, if all the young guys get better and they nail the offseason, they could be right back in this next year. Maybe not. But let's go down the list. And I want to start with Podziemski, who probably is playing the worst of the bunch right now. Pods, I mean, I know he hurt his knee a couple games ago, and maybe it is hurt, but if he can't be a scoring threat or a shooting threat, like all the IQ in the world, well, it can't make up for that. And to me, it starts with in the earlier part of the season, you could at least count on him to hit an open shot. And right now, whether he hit the rookie wall, 60 plus games of heavy minutes in college, he played half that, or whether his knee's banged up, or whether the league's just catching on to some of his tendencies, it's been a drop off.
I think that's the one. I think the league adjusting is the one. Man, he's a rookie, right? He's young. I think it's a Steve Kerr. Like Steve's gotta just lower his minutes. I don't think it's a Pods issue. Like everyone's gonna struggle, man. Even LeBron struggled. Unless you're Wembanyama, who's only gotten better throughout the season,
improving a year every month. It feels like with Wemby,
unbelievable right? Wemby. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's just really that good. Unless you're Wemby, which I think we know that Pods is not Wemby. He's gonna struggle, man. The league's gonna figure out, hey, this is what he likes to do. He doesn't really. He likes to shoot. He doesn't really like to go all the way to the rim and shoot. He likes to pause. He likes to pivot, right? He doesn't really like to shoot. He doesn't like to do all these things. That's fine. He's going to struggle. The real issue right there is all the way in the far left. It's a 31 minutes, right? Just don't play him 31 minutes, right? He's still good. He still does so many good things. He still boards. He still makes good passes. He still doesn't turn the ball over. But he struggled scoring and he struggled defensively. So just don't play him 31 minutes. And that's where my thing with Steve Kerr is, hey, man, you love benching Moody for no reason. You love sitting Kuminga for the first 2 years for no reason. Now they do different things and they struggle with different things, but I think it's pretty clear that you can just go with Pods for maybe 15, 16 minutes and he'll still be good. Pods is not someone that needs to play 30 minutes to be good. That's Kuminga's thing. Kuminga needs to play 30 minutes for him to be effective. Pods can be effective in 15 minutes. Hell, he can be effective in 5 minutes, right? That's I think
he plays like his hair's on fire anytime he gets on the floor, which is great. That's great. And maybe this doesn't happen until Steph comes back, but with Chris Paul back playing a little better, maybe it's time to kind of get Pods closer to 20 minutes for a little bit just to get his legs under him. I think the thing that stands out to me with him is he does look slower than he looked earlier in the season. Now, no one's going to mistake him for being Russell Westbrook or anything, but defensively he's a little slower. Offensively he's a little slower. Maybe his knee's bothering him. Maybe he's fatigued. Whatever it is, slow is slow. So yeah, maybe
I agree with that.
Maybe that's the move. I'm still super optimistic on him long term, but that dude better hit the gym on his jumper because that's a swing skill for him, right? He's not going to be a guy who has this insane Kuminga burst to the rim. He's got to be able to hit shots when he has the ball in his hand, and he shows enough potential, but it's certainly not consistent enough.
I think if it's one thing about Pods we don't got to worry about, it's about him hitting the gym in the offseason. I think that's the one thing we don't got to worry about. The other stuff I think is still a concern for me, but I think it's the coaching staff that has to realize, hey, man, he's struggling. Go curtail the minutes and don't take 10 games to do it, right? The thing about this coaching staff that they've struggled with is they take too long to make adjustments. They really do. And this team is down to under 20 games. So it's time to make those adjustments. And that's the other thing where the team has 11 good players. And it's just hard to always pick the right 8. And I don't know who would be good at it. Maybe outside of Spo, but Kerr's not Spo. It's not his. It's not like
the Heat haven't gone through disgusting spells like this as well.
Yeah, exactly. The Heat, they were just struggling. Jimmy just came back.
7 straight losses a couple weeks ago, right? So
they play in a shit conference, so that's the difference, right? They play in a shit conference, and they could easily make if the Warriors were in the Eastern Conference Finals, Sam, would we be sitting here talking about them being a conference finals, true conference finals contender? We wouldn't really have to sell too much. We wouldn't have to sell to the people.
No, but they're in the West. They're in the West.
Yes.
So I do hear your point because you're looking at the East. I don't know if Embiid's coming back. I think he's coming back, but we've seen Embiid come back and be banged up, and that's not Joel Embiid.
Yeah. Right.
So Philly might be cooked. I think Milwaukee's cooked, honestly. I just don't believe in them at all. And I don't think it's just Dame. Giannis, I don't know. We have bigger problems, so far be it from us to point finger at Milwaukee's issues. When I watch Milwaukee, I'm like, man, this is as much on Giannis as on Dame. Both those dudes do not know how to play with anyone else. They need the ball given to them at all times.
That's the one. Yep.
Yeah. And you would think there would be some of that, and then they'd come together, because that's usually what happens when you're used to being a solo star, but it just hasn't happened. And so I think in the playoffs, it's going to eventually get exposed. That plus they're slow as shit everywhere else.
You're not a Brooke Lopez and Chris Middleton, who barely plays, and
Drew Holiday built Brooke Lopez's defensive reputation. I'm sorry.
Woo!
It was like, oh, Brooke's such a good defender. I'm like, yeah, when Drew is, making sure the guard can't get free, because if Drew's not hounding him, he's getting cooked.
I think we take for granted also Steph and KD's what do we call it, malleability to play with each other on and off the ball. KD was great. KD is great off the ball. I just think people don't give a shit about off this ball stuff, but those two guys are two of the best off the ball guys. And you're right. Like, we watched the Lakers and Bucks, and I don't really know what Dame and Giannis are doing in crunch time. I just don't know what they're doing outside of give me the ball, I'm going to go ISO. And it's like, well, Giannis is also really, he should probably be part of that offense. Like, it's just a bunch of, that's not going to work. Dame time is cute, man. That's not going to work to win a championship. Really, unless you're Michael Jordan, like that shit's not going to work.
Even then, the Bulls ran the same type of motion. The triangle is essentially the 90s version of Kerr's offense.
That's right.
Where it's all about like, let's get everyone going, and then the big dog will take over when he has to,
Big dog. So, big dog. All right.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a fair point. Should we get back to let's go next. Kuminga. I feel like Kuminga's stats yesterday were deceptive. Am I wrong?
Fake good game, right? That was a fake good game.
I mean, if he played the fourth quarter all game, it would have been a good game, but it was like it took him 2/3 of the game to get into it a little bit. And I think we hit on it earlier. Like a lot of it's like, yeah, dude, he's not the type of small forward to dominate when you have two non-shooters in the paint.
Nobody can. That's why LeBron's always been freaking asking for 3 shooters on the floor next to him. You know what I mean? Like it's the only way where LeBron can get a free roll to the rim. I actually think I was watching the Bulls game on the flight, and I really had this thought, and a lot of people tweeted it actually. Mar especially tweeted it on Warriors Twitter. His defense is not good. It is really not good. And he got destroyed by now. DeMar DeRozan is one of the greatest scorers in NBA history, but Kuminga had no chance. And I think that's why the next step in this development, because the first step, which was really cool this season, is the ball handling and the scoring has gotten really, really good. Right? The guys have no chance to stop him. But the defense is the one where they keep putting him on scores because he has the build and the look. It reminds me a little bit of back then Russell Westbrook, where it's just he's a great defender because he yells a lot and he's athletic and he jumps high. And it's kind of the same thing with Kuminga, where he's just big and he jumps high, but he is not a good defensive player. So he's going to have to fix some of that moving forward. That's the only thing to me. That's the bad. The good is the obvious, where it's just, I mean, it is an empty 26 last night, but guys have no chance to stay in front of him. Freaking zero chance. His handle has gotten so much better.
He does have
so much better.
He does have a very important superstar skill, which is not to say he's a superstar, but like if you can always win off your first step, you can build off that. And his handle's got good enough that like if he's got a man in a one-on-one, he will get by them at all times. So that's something to work with, I think you're probably a little hard on his defense, but you're also not wrong. I don't mind the coaching staff putting him on DeRozan because that's like the only way he's going to learn.
Right. You're right.
But to your point, like crafty 35-year-old who has every move in the book versus a 21-year-old who's used to just being able to overwhelm people with their athleticism. It went the way you would expect it to go, right? And so for me with Kuminga, I look more at like effort on rebounding and effort on defense because he'll get better defensively with reps. What you can't have is like those spells he had early in his career where he was just kind of, I don't want to say Wigginsy, but like where he's just floating, running cardio, not engaged in the game. That's like the big thing I look for with him. And this year has been a huge step forward for him not doing that as much,
You probably say it way better than I did. I mean, that's fair. I think I'm with Kuminga, I see more of the bad than the good a lot of the times, right? It's just the comments are having a good time telling me about it. Hey, look, he's done a lot more good this season than bad. That is very true. But for him to be I think with great potential comes great expectations, and Kuminga has absurdly high. Did I go full Spider-Man there? Did I go
full? No, you've just been full Asian dad on Kuminga. He's bringing home a 1400 on the SATs, and you're like, go away.
Which says to me, I didn't do very well on the SATs, which is funny. But you're right.
Don't come talk to me until I see a 15 starting number.
Well, it's funny. Well, hey, back when I took the SATs, it was out of 24, and I think they moved it back.
Oh, were you in the span where it was 24? Because I was in the. When I took it, it was out of 16. Then it went to 24, and now it's back at 16.
Back to 16. I never really. I don't know. I didn't study for it.
It's whether it's 2 sections or 3 sections of 800. So
what was the 3? What was the extra section? What does extra section?
I didn't take that version of it, so I can't tell you off the top of my head. But
God, SATs was also useless, by the way. Well, but it's the difference between how I talk about Moody versus Kuminga, right? Because Moody struggles with a lot of stuff, but I usually am kind of. I'm okay with a lot of Moody struggles, but that's because he's Moses Moody. It's because he doesn't have the potential that
the outlier
Kuminga
physical
does.
gifts.
Yeah, right. And hey, the third section was a great at writing section. Hey, that's good for me. That's the only section I did well in. It was the great at writing section. So that probably pulled my grade up because I know I didn't do well on the other 2. So there you go. That was
this is a perfect example of Andy's energy in the chat from KPB. We're talking up Kuminga, and he's like, "That's great, but our neighbor's kid is a doctor and an engineer." For those who know, you know.
Oh man! All right, the next guy is Moody, right?
Let's do Moody next. He struggled also against the Spurs. Shocker, losing to one of the worst teams in the league. A lot of guys struggle. Where are you at with Moody overall? Because this has been kind of a mini renaissance for him over the last handful of games, right? Like he's finally playing 20 plus minutes on the regular, which is what we've been calling for all season. It's been more good than bad. Last night was bad. But where are you at with him overall, not just last night?
Yeah, Moody's my guy. I'm happy he's getting minutes. He's probably not he's probably not going to end up being this elite basketball player, but I think he's just going to always. I think the thing with him stays the same. The expectations for me stays the same. He ends up being a high level role player for every team that he's always going to be on, no matter what. He does need to bring his shooting percentage up from the 3. I think the comments are throwing out 32%.
It's the prettiest shot that only goes in 33% of the time.
Yeah, a little weird. Yeah, right, because his shot looks better. I mean, even Kuminga's shot looks good. Honestly, it feels like Kuminga's got a nice I'm going to get it straight and But Moody shoots a lot of 3s. He's struggled shooting them. I wonder if maybe he's pressing because to me he is a shooter. So he brings that up. But everything else,
every level,
everything else, I think is he going to be a great ball handler and get to the rim and dish? No, he's not going to do any of that. But he's decent straight line. He's gotten a lot stronger. Finishing at the rim's gotten better. But he's not going to be a passer. He's not going to be an elite defender. But he tries very hard. He stays in front of guys. Right, gets a lot of rebounds. Honestly, him and Pods are very similar. And that they just kind of know how to play basketball in a way that maybe they don't end up being these great basketball players, but they're always going to be on the court. You're always just going to be like, man, he just played 28, 32 minutes and he kind of only made 3 shots, right? I feel like Moody and Paz are kind of like
what you feel his impact on the game, getting some loose 100%. Balls, making the extra pass, some stuff like that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, here, I got the numbers in front of us. His last 10 games.
Oh, no.
And really, if I want to be honest, it's actually the last 7 or so that he's fully stapled himself in the rotation. So small sample here, but 24 minutes per game. He's rebounding the hell out of the ball. 5 rebounds in 24 minutes would work out to 7 to 8 if he played a starter's minutes. He's making an impact defensively. Obviously, the Knicks game is the one that jumps to everyone's mind with his defense on Brunson. But there are other games where you just feel him get his hands on a bunch of stuff because he is really long. But the shooting, man, I really do think the thing that's tricky with him is he's a shooter who doesn't hit enough shots, right? And so part of you is well, if they traded him for someone else, is it that big a deal? And then he goes to another team and becomes a 40% 3-point shooter. And I guarantee you, if he hits 40% of his 3-point shots, he's playing 35 minutes a game because he does so many other things well. It's just the shot being inconsistent that's keeping him off the floor.
Yeah, I agree. I can't imagine that shot not. It's the same as Pods. He's a shooter. He's going to make shots. I think Pods is struggling shooting right now too a little bit, but a shooter, he's going to make threes at some point. But that's probably the least thing I got to worry about. All right, we got the last guy.
Let's do we might as well talk Trace Jackson Davis too. Last night it was okay. I mean, it's nice having, even though he's only 6'9", it's nice having a guy who knows how to set a screen on a pick and roll, dive, and finish. That is nice. That is a nice element to have on this roster. I think we've all been kind of sad watching Looney the last few games. It's like just adding someone who can bring those elements. What do you think his upside is, honestly?
He's a weird one because he doesn't play enough, but also I'm at the point where he's not super large, so I don't know if he ends up being a super amazing defender unless he has elite feel, kind of like Draymond. Mm-hmm. And I just keep going back to the point where it's like, when you look at the Warriors prospects, are they good or are they kind of like I think of the Giants because I love doing the comp. The Giants farm system, we're so used to, at least for me, I'm so used to hearing the names. I get so excited whenever like Luis Matos has a great 3 weeks in the minors. And then they get called up and they're like, well, those guys just aren't. I mean, they might end up being good, but they're not Jackson Holiday. They're not top 10 prospects.
It's not Corbin Carroll coming up where you're like, this is a star.
Yeah, exactly. So the Warriors have a bunch of guys that are like maybe top 80 in Baseball America's top prospects, but they don't have the top 10. And again, like those guys are top 10 guys are hard. There's only one Corbin Carroll. All right. More often than not, that guy's just Steph Curry or that guy's Luka or that guy's whatever.
Sure.
And the Warriors don't have any of those guys. So is TJD, I guess back to the point of TJD, is he just a guy? Is he just a guy that, because as Warriors fans, we haven't seen a guy that can pick and roll and dunk the ball?
Are we just overrating him because he does stuff that no one else on the team does? Or is he actually good?
Not to say he hasn't been good, because we love TJD. I think he's good, but
I do agree with you though. I think defense will be the swing. If he can really be like a 5-man who rebounds, but is also a switchable onto wings, then you kind of got something. That's a nice piece. I don't know. We'll see. He obviously had his big defensive game against Giannis. That's not nothing, That's not nothing at all. But we'll see. I don't know. I feel like you kind of nailed it there where I like all the Warrior young players. I really do. I'm not certain any of them are franchise guys. And when I think of that in the context of what they put around Steph, that should also be part of the calculus, right?
Yeah. Well, I think Kuminga's the closest one that can get to that guy. I think pretty easily. I think they believe it too. Draymond's over here doing a press tour about we can't trade Kuminga. He's here.
I'm still holding hope on Podziemski. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the shot will come around and opens everything up, but we'll see. The point is not Wemby, not Chet, not one of these guys who like I don't need to watch them very long to know that that's a dude you're building around.
Can those guys get to a? I mean, even Halliburton's just way high up there in terms of guys, so they might not even have like a Halliburton, right? So I don't even know what level of player they'd be happy with. Maybe the comments can help us out there. But yeah, I don't, definitely not that higher peak level. And then the second level is probably Halliburton. Maybe you can throw Anthony Edwards in there as the second level guy. But beyond that, I don't know. LaMelo Ball is probably a third level guy, but he's always hurt. Like, I don't even know if you can count him.
His career is going to a strange place.
Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, and so it's just like, I feel like this is where my head's at after the Spurs game, which is like, this season feels like it's all for lost. They're probably going to make another run. It'll be fun. They'll have a puncher's chance in the play-in. Hopefully they make the playoffs. They give us some fun there. But my mind's constantly going towards the offseason. I just don't want to talk about the offseason every podcast. It just felt like it was worth talking about it this time.
I think so. Yep. We'll be back running the same show. They'll have the Spurs again. Lock in. Maybe we'll see Wemby.
Maybe they'll guard them this time. All right.
All right.
Appreciate it, everyone. Have a